think of Pinehurst, North Carolina, you think about golf. And Pinehurst No. 2 is one of the truly great golf courses anywhere.
And I've always thought that No. 2, from a design standpoint, has always been my favorite golf course in the country.
Pinehurst No. 2 is iconic for a lot of reasons. It seems so natural here, and that's why when Ross saw this sand, he really did hit nirvana. He knew he had something very special to create on.
There's some courses that linger in your memory, always, and Pinehurst is at the top of the list. Pinehurst has always been a leader in North American golf. From the turn of the century on, people would come and visit here. They would play golf as a very heavy history part that Pinehurst plays in the formation of American golf.
Walking through those pines and you see this golf course and you see these greens that are so unique that Donald Ross created, you kind of feel like you're stepping back in time.
Where else can you go play and play like it was really yesterday? It's beautifully manicured within the boundaries of the tee, fairway, and greens. After that, it's you're on your own.
Pinehurst is a totally tree-lined golf course without a tree strategically being in play.
It's a course that really does test every club in your bag, tests your nerves.
From a design standpoint, I think Pinehurst just has so much in it, so much variety, and it has so much character, and it's just so much fun to play.
It takes you to a different plane because of all the, first the great golf course, but all of the great men in the game that have walked it, and you're on that turf. I mean, it's incredible.
Pinehurst No. 2 really is one of the most revered, well-respected courses in the world. This is really one of the treasured venues that the USGA plays the National Open Championship on.
It is probably the real cradle of American golf.
Golf was still in its infancy. It only had been in America about 15 years at that point. So golf grew here like the beautiful trees you see in the village.
Mr. Ross found the sandy soil very reminiscent of his homeland in Dornoch, Scotland, and it was perfect for building a golf course.
His pet was Pinehurst No. 2. It represents his philosophy of how he thinks that golf can be played and enjoyed. He always thought Pinehurst No. 2 was for the expert player, but still playable for the resort guest. That was always the legacy of what he wanted to leave it to.
To think that that course was built and was conceived 120 years ago, it's just amazing.
Pinehurst No. 2 has stood the test of time. It was the place where Ben Hogan won his first championship. Walter Hagen did an exhibition here in the early 1900s. Sam Snead has played here. The greats from the 1970s, Tom Watson, Johnny Miller, Hale Irwin, all won on Pinehurst No. 2. And then, of course, you had Payne Stewart with his epic win in 1999.
Pinehurst is one of those incredibly special places where you get nervous when you're on that first tee, because you realize every great golfer of the last 100 years has played this championship course.
The North and South Amateur Championship itself has an amazing history. I mean, it's been won by Francis Ouimet and by Chick Evans and by Walter Travers. And then when you toss in people like Davis Love and Jack Nicklaus and Jack Jr., it's really one of the premier amateur events that's still in existence in the country.
Back in the day, not everybody turned pro. So you had a lot of old timers you could look up to, the Bill Campbells, the Bill Heinemans, the Bill Harveys, the grand old champions of yesterday. When you look at the history, that's when Pinehurst really got put on the map. To win here was a hell of a feat. I mean, it was huge, huge.
When Jack won the North and South in 1959, he was 19 years old. He was a member of the Walker Cup team. He just flabbergasted the field with his length. And the golf course played very, very hard.
It was a tough golf course. I mean, really difficult. In the semifinals, I played in Bob Cochran from St. Louis, and I shot 80, 81 and beat him 1 up. I played Gene Andrews in the finals. I shot 83, 84 and won 1 up.
And then he went on to win the amateur, and he dominated golf at every level for so long after that.
When Jack played the North-South, I wanted to be supportive and be supportive as a father, and I followed him every hole in 85. I was there with him, just the 2 of us.
I had never won a big amateur event, and Dad would work with me before the round and after the round, and kind of got me in the right place with my golf swing, and I was putting it well, and I kept winning. I don't think he thought that it would last as long as it did. I think he brought enough clothes for maybe a day or 2, and I think I don't know who brought more clothes, but
I don't know. But you can always go buy more underwear and a shirt.
It was an amazing bonding experience for them. Jack said, "Nothing you do is ever as important as what your children do," and he meant that very sincerely. When Jackie made the winning putt on the 17th green, Jack came out of the crowd, and there were tears in his eyes, and it was a big moment for Jack and for Jackie.
It was one of the biggest thrills I've ever had with my game personally, and the fact that Dad was there, it was an amazing time for me.
Amid the tall Carolina pines, the 92-year-old Pinehurst No. 2. For the first time, this historic Donald Ross design plays host to a U.S. Open Championship.
It was extraordinary because it was really something that hadn't been done before. Historically, the USGA had usually had them in major urban markets, and so this was really one of the first rural U.S. Opens, and at first nobody knew whether it would work. Well, it turns out it works incredibly well.
There was a real excitement about coming here for the first time for an Open. The storylines of the week: 1, Phil Mickelson, whose wife Amy was getting ready to give birth to their first child.
The first thing he said to me when he got out of the car was, "Here's a beeper. If this goes off, I don't care if we're on the range, if we're on the first tee or the 18th green any day this week. You let me know immediately because I'm leaving."
Many of your thoughts are back home this week. Is that maybe a good thing, considering the size of the Open?
Sure, in a sense it's a nice distraction while off the course, because as you know, in major championships, anxiety and tension tends to build in between rounds, and it's nice to have a distraction like that, sure.
Payne Stewart had already won a U.S. Open, but had lost in such almost kind of a tragic way at the Olympic Club the year prior.
In 1998, Payne had the 54-hole lead at the U.S. Open and lost to Lee Janzen in the final couple of holes.
Payne was kind of remembered for the ones that got away.
After what happened last year, I didn't play well enough on Sunday. I got beat by a great round of golf in very difficult conditions, and all I wanted to give myself a chance to rectify that situation this year.
Missing the cut in Memphis the week before, Payne's preparation was probably greater than anyone that played in the tournament that week.
If Payne Stewart doesn't miss the cut in Memphis, he is not as comfortable, as relaxed. His game plan does not come quite together like it did, because he had 4 full days here. By Wednesday afternoon, by lunchtime, he left the golf course because there was nothing more to do. He was ready to go.
It's a green light putt, uphill. Don't have to worry about 2-putting.
What a climax to a great day of golf here at Pinehurst.
On that Saturday, Payne made birdie on 18 to take the lead, and he was feeling good about himself. It gave him a boost of confidence to know that he had the lead again, and it was going to be his to win or lose on Sunday.
I wanted this opportunity, and now I got to go out and deal with it.
As those guys were going to the first tee, everybody in the grandstands rose, and there was just like this thunderous applause. You know, you're kind of heading into battle a little bit. It was a little bit like walking into the Coliseum, and the place went nuts, and those guys, you know, went over the first hole and teed off.
Just what the doctor ordered.
How many big names were on that leaderboard? Tiger, Phil, VJ, David Duval, and here was Payne Stewart. That's what you hope every major has.
It's not a hard putt. It really isn't. Inside the hole, do it.
It seemed like a three-man race when Tiger missed the par putt on 17.
And yet another lip out.
At that point, it seemed as though it was a two-man race between Phil and Payne.
A shot low and left.
Well, it gets a pretty good hop.
Bounce. Payne didn't hit a very good shot into the green on 16 and got a great break, and that's what you need to win majors.
There's a better check. Awfully firm.
What was that, Roger?
I think he got at that a little harder than he wanted to. I don't know if you want to call that the open pressure or whatever, but he hit that one much further in the air than I think he was trying to.
Without a doubt, the worst chip he hit all week long. I mean, he almost bellied it over the green. It was just terrible. About 30 feet behind the hole.
Tough putt to read.
The putt that he had for par, you can't read it, much less make it.
It was downhill. It broke at least two ways, and it was 25 feet on the 70th hole of the U.S. Open.
It was probably divine intervention that he made that putt. I mean, it's an impossible putt to make, but he did.
Biggest putt of his life.
Just to answer Stewart. No, it's not going to move that much.
He yanked it.
That really set the stage. He and Phil now were even going to 17, the 71st hole. Shot starts just left of the hole, cutting just right of the hole. What a shot.
Payne Stewart. And Phil Mickelson says, nice shot.
It's just great finish. Just great finish. I mean, you had two giants of the game playing that type of golf.
See if he can answer Payne's great shot.
This is going right in the same line as Payne's.
Oh, what a shot! You're kidding me.
There was a huge reaction when Payne's ball rolled up as close as it did, and then the place erupted when Phil hit it relatively close also.
The noise and the reverberations, you could literally feel the reverberations on the ground.
These are two guys at the top of their game, obviously wanting to hold that U.S. Open trophy, and they're locked in, and it's going to be who blinks first.
One hole to play. Stewart leads by one.
So now he's got a one-shot lead going to the 72nd hole.
Phil had not yet won a major championship, and he was right there every step of the way, and these guys just went head to head. It was impressive. It was very impressive.
This ball going down the right side. Should be pretty good.
No, it isn't. It missed by 6 inches, Raj. That is in trouble right there.
You see players fail under that type of pressure, but you also see them do extraordinary things because of the pressure.
Perfect. Perfect. He's got a chance to catch Payne. Payne's got the tough lie.
Phil was, I'm sure, thinking to himself, if I can drive the ball in the fairway here, it's going to be advantage me on 18, and he did.
That after they hit their tee shots and they were walking up the hill, you could hear the carillon from the village chapel, and it was playing Amazing Grace.
They're hitting on all cylinders. They're thinking so clearly. Their feeling is right at their fingertips, and they do things that maybe they don't even think they can do.
And we got up to his ball, and it just hadn't carried far enough, and it was the worst lie he'd had all week. He didn't even ask me for a yardage to the green. He just wanted to know what we had to lay up short of the green here on 18.
If he happens to make bogey here and Phil Mickelson make birdie, he'll look at this little break right here saying this was not good.
He had an 8-iron out, and it left us with about 78 yards for his third shot.
Laid up just on the side slope there, the ball below his feet.
Phil had an 8-iron in there. I would assume it was probably 165, 70 yards. He pulled it a little bit.
He said, oh no.
There's a ball going right of the hole, John.
The greens were softer now because of the mist, and the ball hung up on the right side of the green rather than releasing down.
Has the birdie chance. His 16th U.S. Open, the '91 champion,
gives himself the opportunity to win again.
Phil was away, barely, by about a foot. It looked good for a long time, but it missed, and that gave Payne the open door.
It's almost improbable to think you could hold two putts like this for par in the last 3 holes, isn't it?
It is, and these uphill putts, you have to hit them so square and so perfect. There's no help.
Pretty much the history of the U.S. Open has been is nobody makes that putt.
Payne Stewart is the 1999 U.S. Open champion. Oh my! What a clutch
putt. Not a lot of guys are going to get that putt to the hole. Yeah, I was preparing myself for Monday playoff.
When he lined up the putt, I had no idea. But I could see Payne and I could see the ball rolling, and then finally it disappeared and everybody just went crazy.
I happened to be standing next to Tracy Stewart to the side of the 18th green.
I do remember Roger being right there, and Roger had tears coming down his face, and I had tears, and it was just very emotional.
I was at a basketball camp. Someone actually ran into the building, said, "He made the putt, he made the putt." So that was really fun for me to get to celebrate with all my friends, and then to celebrate with Mom and Dad the next couple days.
It was a great moment to a great championship.
A lot of people refer to it as the redemption, and the way he won it, and the way he conducted himself, both during the event and then afterwards, and the advice he gave Phil Mickelson. It's incredibly special.
When he walked over to Phil and put his hands on his cheeks and said, "You're going to be a father," the fraction after enjoying his biggest professional high, his greatest moment, that he would have the presence of mind to go up to Phil and say, "You're going to be a dad." I mean, he was a new man, and we all knew it. A man we liked very much.
Well, I have to, first of all, I have to give thanks to the Lord. And if it wasn't for the faith that I have in Him, I wouldn't have been able to have the faith I've had in myself on the golf course today.
There were numerous times on the golf course today where you had to dig deep.
Well, I could never give up out there. Phil played unbelievable. He really did. And Phil's going to have his opportunities again. Mine might be on a short list.
You dug deep out there today as well. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It was an exciting tournament for me. The outcome wasn't what I had hoped for, but I thought that the putts that Payne made on 16 and 18 showed what a great champion he is, and I think he represents the United States exceptionally well as our champion.
He had a piece about him, especially that week, that I'd never seen before.
His untimely death 4 months later was a shock to the golf world, and I think accentuates really what happened here on that Sunday in Pinehurst.
It turned out to be one of those tournaments that people never forget. Kids who were there will grow up remembering what they witnessed, and it's the kind of iconic moment that is not only immortalized in statues, but it's something that golfers use as a reference point their entire lives.
Pinehurst No. 2. Just the name itself, branded in our American golfing conscience forever. The familiar icon, ready again to add to the unique and storied history that is the U.S. Open. And this weekend, in the Sandhills of North Carolina, the Open legacy lives on. This week, who dares to dream like he did at Pinehurst?
Coming back in 2005 just speaks to the greatness of Pinehurst.
That decision was made based on the success and the experience that we all realized and had here in 1999.
We were fortunate just the way things fell from a scheduling standpoint with the USGA. It fit in well with their schedule, and it worked out.
It was really the fastest turnaround in modern times.
People really expected either John Daly or Tiger Woods more likely to win it. Opens seem to produce a kind of a guy who catches lightning in a bottle and rides to fame, and a young man named Michael Campbell broke through.
Campbell not out of it at +2. No, make it +1.
I had a nice little run of tournaments on the European Tour. I was quietly confident going into Pinehurst.
Michael Campbell, downhill putt for birdie 2. And just sneaks in.
My expectation that week was basically, you know what, Michael, a top 10 would be great. Top 5 would be a bonus.
Do you think the other players, when they see your name on top of the leaderboard in the Open, are kind of going, uh-oh, there's Retief?
Well, I don't know really, but you know, it's going to be a long weekend ahead of us here, and but we're looking forward to it.
You had the 2-time US Open winner, Retief Goosen, you had Tiger 3-4 shots back. You had obviously Jason Gore, a fairy tale story.
Jason Gore, 31 years of age from Valencia, California.
He's trying to slip the wedge underneath the ball here from short of the green. Wow.
Jason Gore. It's his party. He'll cry if he wants to.
And here is this kid from California, you know, didn't even play the PGA Tour. Young guy whose car had been robbed with like all his earthly possessions. Did it just before the US Open.
My wife went out in the morning to look for her stuff, and came back in the room crying, like in hysterics, and everything was gone. When we pulled into the US Open, I got wires hanging out of my dash, and I'm like, no, you have to believe me, I'm playing in the tournament. And it was interesting trying to get through security, especially with no badge, no pass, no golf clubs, no nothing.
There were people that were helping him out and replacing things. So all this, and then have a chance to win the national championship. I mean, there was almost a Jason Gore mania thing going on. He had big fans.
It's Jason Gore's second.
164 yards. Look at this. I'll tell you, he's starting to get a little mo going. That's a great story.
We had a really good game plan, Caddy and I, and we were just playing knowing that par was a good score, and the next thing I know, I think I was tied for the lead at that point.
That's a good line.
Jason Gore is going to go to Sunday at even par.
It was the easiest putt I could have had on that green. It was just outside right edge. Just hit it, and it got about halfway there and kind of hit the apex of the putt. The greens were perfect, and I knew I made it.
One of the most unlikely stories in recent memory in US Open.
As the ball kind of went in, I just looked up and everybody just stood in the grandstands. And it was just like one of those chill moments, and I mean, it was pretty much goosebumps.
Right now, cloudless skies warm Donald Ross's #2 course, as this U.S. Open is, for all intents and purposes, Retief Goosen's to lose.
Sunday, the final day, I followed the last group, which was Retief Goosen and Jason Gore.
Ball going right down the center of the fairway. This one's hammered, Johnny.
As I was walking down the fairway, everybody's yelling, "Go Jason, go Gore, come on, big man," and nobody yelling Retief. I almost felt bad about it. It's like I wanted to yell out, "Go Retief,"
And Campbell, that starts off with a birdie for the second day in a row.
After 3 rounds, I think I was coming like 7th or 8th, but I was like 4 shots behind Retief, and I had no expectation of catching Retief at all. It all adds up him to be Retief holding that trophy.
No, see, misread the break. Double bogey, and all of a sudden, Goosen is only 1 under par for the championship.
The collapse of Retief Goosen, a 2-time US Open champion, and nobody thought that would happen on Sunday.
Yeah, you just get the feeling that we're just poised for some sort of train wreck.
Well, he's left himself at least 7 feet. So he's just sort of shaking his head. Nothing's going right for him right now.
They both had terrible days. Retief shot, I think, 81, and Jason, I think, shot 84.
He could have missed it right, missed it short, missed it long. He could have missed the green all kinds of ways.
Once I made double on 3, my game plan had changed from being conservative and just knowing par is a good score to actually trying to get back into the championship and try to make birdies to win, which is what you do not do on that golf course.
And another drop shot.
Johnny. This is almost a historic collapse right here, in case you didn't figure it out already.
I was very surprised on Retief's implosion. You know, he double bogeyed a hole and bogeyed the next hole and bogeyed the next hole, and all of a sudden I went from being 4 behind to leading after 6 holes. Having Tiger chase me down definitely inspired me, because he just won Augusta. He's playing fantastic golf, but I thought, okay, this is, you know, Tiger at his best, really.
There it is. Tiger Woods, 3rd birdie on the back 9, moves into +1 for the championship.
Every time he made a birdie, I heard about it. Every time he made a bogey, I heard about it. The last 9 holes I saw as an opportunity for me to prove to myself that, hey, I can compete against the best player in the world and beat him.
How's that look? Is it left?
Left.
15th hole, I hit a horrible 6-iron left in the bunker.
Oh, and short left.
And you know what? A 20-yard, 30-yard bunker shot is the hardest shot in golf. But as I walked towards my ball, I said to myself, this is the easiest shot in the world, this is the easiest shot in the world, this is the easiest shot in the world, over and over and over and over. And I played it to about 5 feet.
I'd say he did it pretty well, Johnny. Passed that test.
One cool customer this year.
I feel pretty good. I'm feeling pretty calm and collected, and I heard a big roar from the 18th green.
Yes!
So I thought to myself, okay, here we are, Michael. We've got 2 holes to play, 2-shot lead. Anything's possible. Just focus on the next shot.
And the line is terrific.
And I hit it to about 25 feet.
It's a beauty, Donnie. Boy, that's very nice.
Uphill putt.
Look at this. Tracking in.
Boom.
Campbell with a birdie at 17.
Another birdie. Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Michael Campbell wishing his father, Tom, happy Father's Day.
Campbell was the steady guy, and he was the one who 2-putted for pars and made the crucial putts that he needed to for birdies.
So 10 years from letting one open slip away, Michael Campbell is going to win the U.S. Open.
Yeah, just things went my way. I sunk some long putts and some good ones, some par-saving putts too, but I can just walk away right now and just think, okay, people back home, if I can do it, so can you. After spending 5 hours doing media interviews, I drove back to my hotel. It was the first time I had my moment with my trophy. So what I did, I put him in the front seat, I put a seatbelt around it, and I said, "You're okay?" I started driving. I remember driving and driving, looking at it like this. I thought, oh, it's still there. It's not a dream. Are you real? Are you real? Winning my first major was a thrill of my lifetime, definitely. And to win it at Pinehurst makes it even more special.
Pinehurst is a very special place, but we lost something that was special, the uniqueness of Pinehurst, by really trying to be like too many other courses, where everything is monochromatic green, everything is supposedly perfect out there, and that was not really the way golf was ever started or intended.
You know, over time, with the availability of irrigation, the heart and soul of Pinehurst kind of got lost. You know, it was a risk, but I think it was one we had to take, because I kind of got the feeling that if we didn't get number 2 back to where it was and the reputation that it had, that we might wind up being a place that hosts the Open once every 10 years. And that's just not enough.
When Don Pageant, president of Pinehurst, called us and asked us if we would have a conversation about a potential restoration of number 2, at first we couldn't quite believe it.
They said, what would you do to this course? It was a heavy proposition, I'll just say it right out.
We both revered this golf course so much. It was such an exciting proposition, given our admiration for the course, for Mr. Ross, and the history of Pinehurst.
We're both lovers of Pinehurst number 2 because you have a museum piece. You say, we're going to entrust this to you. What are you going to do?
There were really 2 main criteria. The first was to capture the spirit of Donald Ross and allow what Mother Nature intended. And the second was to position Pinehurst for the next 100 years to host our nation's top championships.
There's not probably a golf course in North America, a lot of places in the world, who are blessed with such an abundance of archives.
We went to the Tufts archives. We perused all the fantastic material that they have there, learning as much as we could about the history of this revered golf course. Ben and I both came to the conclusion that the version of number 2 that we wanted to try to recapture was the one that existed from 1935 through the early 1960s.
We just all sort of got together, so this looks sort of like the era that we think that it should be, what represents Pinehurst. The golf course looked just rustic enough and just looked beautiful to us.
We didn't have any exact detail. We had enough information to be, as the cliche goes, to be almost dangerous. 2 things occurred. The first occurred when Bob Farron, who's the director of agronomy for all the courses here at Pinehurst, came to us one day and he said, when we redid the irrigation on number 2 in the 1980s, the main line irrigation, center line down the fairways, was put in immediately adjacent to the original piping that Mr. Ross had put in 1932.
So we marked that with flags, and we started studying that, and it started taking shape beautifully.
The second and perhaps most crucial part of gathering the information prior to restoration came when a man by the name of Craig Disher called and he said, do you and Ben have any really good aerial photographs of number 2? We went to his townhome here in Pinehurst. On the table he had laid out individual photographs of every hole of number 2, extremely detailed aerial photographs taken on Christmas Day, 1943.
You could tell so much detail about the golf course. It was very, very sharp. And the features, edges of fairways, edges of bunkers, edges of greens, tee boxes, what the rough looked like, what areas were unkept. That was invaluable.
Nearly 40 acres of managed turf were removed and converted into sand, wiregrass, pine straw, native vegetation type roughs, much like the course had before.
We eliminated over 700 sprinkler heads. We use about half the water that we once did, which I think is incredibly important for the future of golf, not just for our golf courses. And so we tried to make it more ecologically sustainable, but also economically more sustainable at the same time.
I think Donald Ross would be very happy. I think he would feel like his work had been restored. I think the golf course that the Sneeds and the Hogans of his era always thought it was one of the top 5 golf courses in the world. I think he would think that golf course has returned.
There's an expression in golf that golf doesn't build character, it reveals character. And I think the work that Ben and Bill have done on the course have really revealed the character that Ross had intended.
The world's best golfers will have plenty of chances next year, with both the men's and women's U.S. Opens coming to Pinehurst.
It's the first time the men's and women's Open will be played back-to-back in the same spot.
Officials at Pinehurst say the old number 2 is unlike anything the Open's ever seen.
I think it's going to be a big win to have the girls be able to see how the golf course played the previous week and go in and say, I know I can do that.
David Fay, who was my predecessor as USGA Executive Director, came into my office and he thought, I've got this neat concept. Why not have this celebration of truly the world's best men and the world's best women on one of the great courses ever played? Why don't we play the U.S. Women's Open on the same course at the same time as the U.S. Open? It really was a brilliant idea because there's never really been in the game's history a chance to really compare the best men versus the best women on the same golf course set up the same way.
The 114th U.S. Open reopens a love affair that American golfers have had with Pinehurst for over a century and carries on an affection for America's first and still foremost course architect, Donald Ross. Not only is this the 3rd Open here over a 15-year span, it marks the start of 2 weeks of championship golf, as the Women's U.S. Open will be played here at Pinehurst number 2 next week.
Everyone's just excited to come back because, you know, not all these majors are played on great golf courses, and this one is beyond great.
I know Donald Ross would be happy to know that the U.S. Open's returning 3 times very quickly to a place that he loved.
To a man, every player that I talked to just loved it. They said it was like an inland links course.
It forced you to be a little more creative, and it obviously identified who has the proper game of the week.
Well, we've got Brittany Lincecum, some of the other U.S. Women's Open participants taking in the action at the Men's Open. Doing a little pre-championship scouting in their own right.
I thought it was great energy to have the world's greatest women's players be there to check out the golf course, to share a practice area, and then to go out and watch these guys slug it out for the U.S. Open Championship. I thought that was really cool.
The first time a pair of 65s have ever been recorded in the first 2 rounds of a major championship, the lead 6.
Even though Martin Kaymer had won the Players' Championship, he wasn't really among the favorites that were being talked about.
Talk about starts. Kaymer's start here, 7 strokes better than the next best 36-hole start at Pinehurst in this U.S. Open.
I think in order to win a major, you need to play very, very consistent, and you need one of those low rounds. Unfortunately, I had 2 of those brilliant rounds, Thursday and Friday.
And Martin Kaymer gave the tournament some buzz. He had a 3-shot lead after the first round, 6-shot lead after the second round. Changed the whole narrative of the week.
If you play brave golf with a combination of confidence and a little bit of luck here and there, I think you can do well.
This was a bogey-free round, so he had just 1 bogey through the first 36 holes.
Martin was very smart. The biggest thing he told me during that week was, I got to eliminate the big number.
I think it's just important when you're leading by 4, 5, 6 shots, whatever it was, that you avoid stupid things.
Everybody else is wondering the same thing. How is he able to do what he's doing on that golf course? Because nobody else was even close to doing that.
Sounded okay. Oh, he's going to love that from that position.
I think he won the U.S. Open with that second round performance. I mean, at that point, he stretched himself from the field.
DeYoung at 15.
And he knifed it across the green.
And he forced the rest of the field to press.
Couldn't believe how low he took the club back, Peter.
Obviously, you're looking at some guys, Rory, Phil, where are they? Are they getting any closer? Are they not? Because those guys, they can win golf tournaments. They're not the kind of players who back up. They want to win. For them, it's about winning or nothing.
They knew they had to be aggressive because they've seen now 36 holes of Martin Kaymer and how he's attacking this golf course, and they don't think he's backing up.
Now Kaymer hit the 3rd with his 2nd. Out of that thin lie. Wow, look at that.
When you have a lead, especially a big lead, heading into the final round, it's a burden as much as it is a blessing.
For me, the challenge was how low can I play the US Open? Not how far can I get away from the other people, because I can't do anything about that. It was not like that I got greedy. It was more like, how many good shots can you hit in a day?
Solid stroke. Turn off the lights, the party's over.
I marvel in the fact that I was able to witness a very rare thing happen in golf, where one guy was just so far ahead of everybody else. It was mindful of Tiger Woods in 2000 at Pebble Beach.
But walking after the t-shirt was enjoyable, knowing that you will win the US Open. My brother, he was there, my coach was there. I was just very proud the way I won.
Martin Kaymer, the next best score was 1 under par. He just tore up the golf course. How to explain it? Just say, use that old cliche, he was in his zone and nobody else was.
This is his best finish in 18 majors, and now for par, Martin Kaymer. Martin Kaymer is a U.S. Open champion at Pinehurst.
Standing over that putt knowing, okay, it's going to be, finally you won it and it's all good. And you can enjoy the time and celebrate like a big milestone in my career.
It's another weekend at Pinehurst #2, now reserved for the ladies in this historical 2 weeks of back-to-back U.S. Opens, where Michelle Wie hopes to make history as the ladies take over at Donald Ross's venerable #2.
When we got the call from David Fay, the executive director of the USGA, about asking us whether we would consider doing back-to-back U.S. Opens, it didn't take long for us to make the decision. We called him back almost immediately and said we're in, primarily because we knew it would be one of the best things that's ever happened to women's golf.
You just think about the celebration of women's golf here. They have the greatest women's players in the world. For those women to be able to come here and compete on a venue where the greatest men's players in the world participated the week before, and really it's uncontroverted that the most coveted title in women's golf is the U.S. Women's Open Championship.
When I first heard that the two championships were going to be played back-to-back, I was extremely excited. You know, it's the first time this has ever happened. I think that it's extremely exciting for women's golf to be played, you know, right after the men. It brought a lot of attention to women's golf.
So you go from Martin Keimer's brilliance the first week to Lucy Lee, a mouthful of braces, smiles everywhere, and she's like a little girl in a candy store.
Lucy Lee, the youngest ever to qualify for U.S. Women's Open Championship. Excellent third shot to within about 10 feet.
I was just so excited for her. You know, I think she had a blast at the U.S. Open, and I think she learned a lot from a lot of different players, and I thought that was very cute and very good.
I mean, just look at the technique she uses, and she looks like somebody that's 10 or 15 years older. It's fantastic.
Dad likes to play. He's actually pretty good.
Can your dad beat you?
No.
Oh, can't miss right. And didn't.
Oh, good
wow,
looking.
Good shot.
Good looking.
Michelle Wie has spent half of her life in the public eye. And she was playing among adults, and there were ups and there were far more downs.
We've been watching Michelle Wie since she was 12 and 13. I mean, she's playing at a PGA Tour event as a teenager. Everybody thought she was going to be a world beater.
There were times when she questioned her love for golf, but even this year, she has said that she has refound her love of golf.
She had a renewed energy, a renewed passion to play golf and to play it at a high level.
Oh, got up. I was afraid it took a little hop too soon, but that's just fine.
That's pretty classy, Roger.
I was nervous, but I started pretty steady. I had a lot of pars the first day, made some birdies, and so, you know, I was really happy, you know, about that.
Michelle Wie from 111. Not the best angle from the right-hand side of the fairway, but certainly an accessible hole location. Okay.
My strategy was about playing smart and being in the right spot, and I think most importantly, missing it in the right spot.
And trying to end her round for the second day in a row with a birdie at the short par 3 ninth. Back-to-back 68s for Michelle Wie.
You know, it was great that I had a little bit of lead. It felt good. I was really excited for the weekend.
And Michelle Wie with the honor has reeled off 5 straight pars.
It's a pretty good line.
Yeah, that's great. Underneath the hole.
My third round, as I remember it going really well, and then really poorly, and then okay.
In the final round of the U.S. Women's Open, #1 player in the world, Stacy Lewis, off another birdie at 8. This one at the 9th, had another one at the 10th for 3 in a row as they all chase Michelle Wie, the only player under par.
And Stacy Lewis goes and birdies 17 and 18 to finish her round and makes everybody think, okay, there's a chance.
And drills birdie number 8 on the day for Stacy Lewis, and a 66 matches the best round of the championship.
I knew I needed to get out early today and post a number and see what happens and make Michelle earn it.
And all of a sudden, the lead was down to 3 and 2.
Well, this is going right. This is going to head for that bunker. That's a long bunker shot from in there.
I should have just laid up, but I don't know why I tried to hit a cut hybrid out of there. It cut into the native, and we couldn't find the ball.
Well, this ball is embedded in the base of a bottom of one of these wire grass clumpings, so it can't be good. I wouldn't think there's any real good thing to do with this.
They found the ball. She had to take a drop, penalty drop. And as the veteran that she was, didn't get too cute with her chip shot onto the green.
That'll be 23 or 24 feet down the hill, little slider to the right.
The putt that I hit on 16 had to be one of the best putts I've ever hit in my entire life. I was so nervous, but at the same time, I was like, whatever happens, happens.
What a putt.
After what happened on 16, it got really close there for a second.
Hit very high, right of the hole.
Good shot, good comeback.
She goes to 17, knocks it to 20 feet. The putt has 2 different breaks in it, and it's downhill and it's slick.
It was one of those putts where I looked at it and I liked it. I felt really good about it.
Still not a single 3-putt in this entire championship. And how about that for a 1-putt?
It was the best feeling I ever felt in my entire life.
Michelle Wie back up by 2 with 1 left.
She took down Pinehurst No. 2, beat back the best field in women's golf. It's as big a thing that's happened to women's golf in a long, long time.
Here she is, 1 final hole.
3-wood here, low baby right in the middle.
After I hit the tee shot on 18, that's when I knew I won. I think the 18 was a really tough tee shot, and after I hit it in the middle of the fairway, I was like, this is awesome.
There she was on the biggest stage in women's golf, on a historic golf course. The most talked about female golfer in the world showed why she's the most talked about female golfer in the world.
Solid contact left of the hole at the center of the green. Okay. Right where you would expect it.
An American golfer growing up, winning any U.S. Open, it's the dream. But just the fact that I won it at Pinehurst, it's just that much more special to me.
What a way to break through for Michelle Wie at Pinehurst. Her first major championship is the U.S. Women's Open.
It was awesome, just seeing all my friends there, pouring champagne on me, supporting me. It was a really cool experience.
When you think of Pinehurst, North Carolina, you think about golf. And Pinehurst No. 2 is one of the truly great golf courses anywhere. It's not only architecturally one of the finest, but it's got a great championship pedigree. And to have gone through 2014 to have back-to-back U.S. Open championships with the world's best women, the world's best men, truly is a year that we'll remember for many, many decades to come.
From tee to green, it's everything you want in a golf course that you imagine in your dreams.
It's a living legacy to Donald Ross, who designed over 400 golf courses. I mean, this guy was prolific. People here, to them, golf isn't just a hobby or a pastime, it's a passion. I mean, this community is linked forever to golf. This is a gift to golf.
When you see the grand old golf courses, and when you see the U.S. Open at grand old golf courses, Pinehurst has to be in the mix.
This is a place that not only sort of touches something in every golfer, but it has a natural wildness that is very, very central to what golf was.
I believe the golden age of Pinehurst is in our future because of the changes, the restoration. I think that will position us well into the modern era of golf because we've really recaptured the essence of what makes golf so special.
If you get an opportunity to play, it's going to be unforgettable. You're walking down the fairway and you see those beautiful pine trees around you. It's something that you'll never forget.